Hi, welcome to This Country Called Agriculture. I'm your host, Rob Eirich. On today's show, we're going to have a long discussion on genomics, and with me today I have two gentlemen from Livestock, Gentec out of Edmonton, Tom Lynch-Staunton and Colin, Coros. And gentlemen, thanks for being on today. First of all, tell us a little bit about your roles with Livestock Gentec. We'll start with you, Colin.
Well, as part of Livestock Gentec, recently we've spun out a service lab in genomics, and that service lab we call the Delta Genomic Center. My role in Livestock Gentec is to lead that service lab called Delta Genomics.
Fantastic. And Tom?
First of all, thanks for having us, Rob. And my role is split between Livestock Gentec and Delta Genomics. It's mainly a knowledge transfer role, so I have to try to figure out what the researchers are doing, translate that so that we can use it in industry, particularly the beef industry.
Fantastic. So knowledge transfer today on this show, and let's start up the discussion let's talk about, let's frame this whole concept of genomics. Tell us about what it is, what's the background of it, and explain it to folks.
Well, it's actually quite fascinating. A lot of people say we're in the genomics revolution, or the era of genomics, and it's really remarkable how little amount of time it was since we first really started understanding what genomics is and how it works. So basically, genomics just means the study of our DNA, and it was in 1953 when Watson and Crick first identified the structure of DNA, and it was around that time we now realize that there's really four main components, nucleotides within our DNA, which define our entire genome. We refer to those nucleotides as A, C, G, and T. So with these four letters, what we figured out is mixed in different sequences, they actually read like a book. And that book is what encodes all of the characteristics of ourselves.
So what do those four letters stand for?
So adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. So
those are essential amino acids, right?
Essential nucleotides. So those nucleotides actually encode for the amino acids, and amino acids build proteins, and it's actually the proteins which give us characteristics. So and depending on what sequence those nucleotides are in, they will change the amino acid sequence, which will change the protein sequence, which will change how each one of us looks.
Okay, so in the last 10 years, we've really come to know a little bit about this Human Genome Project. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's remarkable, and one of the things that's remarkable about it is we just, in 1977, first figured out how to sequence our DNA. And in the 1990s, we underwent this huge multi-international project to sequence the first human genome. It took 10 years and $2.5 billion to get our entire genetic code or define our genome, and that came out in just at the turn of the century in 2000.
And that was a pretty large collaboration project between a lot of nations across the world, is that right?
Yes, it was an international effort. It took a lot of different countries doing a lot of different parts of the genome and putting them together. But that really sparked a beginning of the genomic revolution, because since that time, the technology has advanced so rapidly that in 2008, we sequenced, for example, the first bovine genome. We did that for $20 million, and it took 2 or 3 years. Today, we can sequence an entire genome in 3 weeks for under $10,000.
Oh, wow.
So that's all happened in the last decade. And that's why we say it's really a genomic revolution, because the technology has advanced so much and so fast and has become so cheap. It's now getting to the point where it's realistic to sequence and decipher the genomes of all living organisms.
And I think you were telling me before that there's been about 300 traits so far isolated for the bovine genome. Is that right?
300. So there's probably around 300 well-characterized traits that we can link to the genomic information. But we have a lot more DNA information than that, and the potential is really that we can link almost all of the traits or any sort of information we want from an animal to its DNA. To give you another example of how, if we use, for example, cattle, how that's changed, Livestock Gentec was part of sequencing that first bovine genome that came out in 2008, 2009. Now Livestock Gentec and Delta Genomic is responsible for sequencing 300 of the key bulls in the Canadian livestock population, and we'll be doing that, we're in the process of doing that this year, and we'll have them all completed by the end of the year.
Fantastic. And Tom, I understand that there's some collaboration, information sharing with that bovine trait information with other countries and other organizations.
So yeah, one of our goals at Livestock Gentec, U of A, and Delta Genomics is collaborate as much as we can, because it is expensive to sequence animals and to do genotyping on these animals. So we're collaborating all over the world, various universities, governments, and industry partners as well. And in Canada, we've got tremendous amount of interest in what we're doing with the Canadian beef breeds and producers on the ground. So it's very exciting. And one thing I should point out to add to Colin is we're really at the Commodore 64 era of genomics. We're brand new, and this only has, I'm very excited about it, and it only has the potential to do great things. And so when we get to that iPhone stage, we'll be really running.
Fantastic. So if, you know, I'm maybe a high school student and I know nothing about genomics. How do I start studying that? How do I get a short education? And what would you recommend?
I would encourage all high school students nowadays to take some biology and to study up on it, because whether or not you're going to go into agriculture or whether or not you're going to go into medicine, understanding how the science behind genetics is going to really play a significant role in the future. I would say, I've done some visiting at high school and even at the elementary school level, and I'm amazed that even at that level they're introducing the concept of DNA and how that works at a younger and younger age. And I think if we were going through high school now, we'd be surprised at how much information they're getting.
Oh, good to hear.
And I would also add that genomics is going to affect everything about us. It'll affect the way we produce food, it'll affect our nutrition, it'll affect our own human health, because they're doing a lot of work in human disease stuff with genomics. And so they're looking at genomics in all sorts of different aspects of our lives, and it's really important to stay on top of, because it's here, and it's going to change the way we do things.
Great. When we come back, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little about genetic modified organisms, genomics, and how that all relates. So join us here for a continuation of this discussion.